It was meant to be a perfect romantic day for Patrick and Adeline, the kind of day every couple dreams of, peaceful, filled with love, and surrounded by nature's beauty. But unknown to them, someone was watching, hidden in the shadows, observing every moment with cold, silent eyes. Patrick had planned a sweet and heart-melting surprise for his girlfriend. With a shy smile and trembling excitement, he secretly placed a ring inside a strawberry and lovingly asked Adeline to marry him. Adeline's face lit up with pure joy. She reacted with excitement and happily accepted, her heart overflowing with happiness. But just when Patrick thought everything had gone perfectly, his phone rang. It was their photographer. His tone was irritated as he complained that he couldn't capture the proposal properly because the sunlight caused reflections on his lens. He demanded that Patrick repeat the proposal. Annoyed and frustrated, Patrick raised his voice, telling him to get it right this time. The photographer took a deep breath, set up his camera again, and prepared for the shot. He leaned in, focusing through the lens, when suddenly, a sharp blade stabbed straight through the camera lens, piercing his head and killing him instantly. Meanwhile, completely unaware of the horror that had just unfolded behind them, Patrick proposed to Adeline again, and once more, her answer was a happy, glowing yes. Patrick called out to the photographer, eager to know if the moment had been recorded this time, but he never got the chance to hear a reply. Out of nowhere, a crossbow bolt flew through the air and struck Patrick in the forehead, killing him on the spot. His body dropped lifelessly in front of the woman he loved. Shocked and horrified, Adeline screamed in terror and ran for her life as the masked killer began chasing her. Her heart pounded with fear, her breath shaking as she desperately searched for a place to hide. After a frantic escape, she managed to hide inside a bush, trembling, trying to remain silent. But then, her phone rang. Her eyes widened when she saw the caller ID. It was the killer, calling from Patrick's phone. The ringtone exposed her location. Another arrow shot through the air and struck her ankle. Crying in pain, she limped and struggled, but somehow managed to escape and reach a nearby vineyard. There, she spotted a security guard and begged for help, her voice breaking, full of fear and desperation. Before the guard could even react, the killer appeared and threw a knife with a heart-shaped symbol carved on its handle, killing the guard instantly. Terrified beyond words, Adeline ran deeper into the vineyard and found a large metal wine tank to hide inside. For a moment, everything fell silent. She gathered the little strength she had left and slowly tried to peek outside, only to feel a cold hand grab her by the neck. Panicking, she slammed the tank's door shut with all her strength, forcing the killer to let go. She gasped for air, thinking she had escaped death, but the nightmare was far from over. The killer activated the compression mechanism of the tank. Adeline's screams echoed inside as the pressure crushed her. Within moments, her head exploded from the intense force. The killer calmly stepped out, wearing a mask with heart-shaped eye holes, his disturbing signature look. Within hours, news channels were flooded with breaking headlines. A serial killer now known as the Heart-Eyed Killer. His victims were always romantic couples, but he was merciless enough to kill anyone who stood in his way. Authorities urgently warned everyone to stay indoors, especially because it was Valentine's Day. Elsewhere, a woman named Allie was sitting in a cafe with her best friend Monica. Allie was stressed and clearly exhausted. Her boss had just scheduled an emergency meeting, and she had to present a new Valentine's Day advertising campaign. The pressure was eating at her, and it showed on her face. When she went to get coffee, her mind distracted and heavy, she accidentally bumped into a charming guy. Their eyes met, and for a brief moment the tension lifted. They awkwardly ordered the same drink and shared a shy, gentle laugh. It felt like a small spark, something unexpectedly sweet. But just as Allie tried adding sugar to her cup, she fumbled, and the sugar packet slipped from her hand. In try to pick it up, she accidentally hit the guy right in the face. It caused a sudden nosebleed. Allie's eyes widened in embarrassment. Humiliated, she panicked and rushed away, feeling even worse about her day. Later, at the office meeting, Ali's boss revealed the Valentine's campaign, the same one Ali had worked so hard on. But instead of praise, the room filled with backlash. The ad was violent, and it triggered a wave of criticism online. People called it inappropriate, especially with the heart-eyed killer on the loose. Ali's heart sank. The campaign she put her effort, time, and creativity into was now being shredded apart. Furious and desperate to fix the company's image, her boss decided to hire a new team member, Jay Simons. Ali froze for a second. It was the same man she had met at the cafe. Jay walked in confidently, calm and skilled, immediately giving off a positive impression. He promised to help rebuild the campaign's image, and Ali couldn't decide if she felt relieved or more nervous. Meanwhile, detectives Zach and Janine arrived at the vineyard to investigate the brutal murder of Patrick and Adeline. The scene was disturbing. Broken pieces of a happy day lay scattered, now stained with tragedy. While examining the area, the detectives found a wedding ring engraved with the initials JS, initials that didn't match either victim, a clue, and a mystery. They also recovered the photographer's final image, a horrifying shot capturing the killer mid-attack, frozen in time seconds before death. Later that day, Allie stood in the office restroom, scrolling through social media comments filled with hate and criticism toward her campaign. Each comment felt like a punch to the heart. She felt humiliated, attacked, and alone. Jay walked in, gently reminding her they needed to discuss the campaign. Allie reluctantly agreed. Jay mentioned he had booked a restaurant for dinner that night. She tried to refuse. It was Valentine's Day after all, but he explained he had a flight early the next morning for his best friend's wedding. If they were going to fix this mess, the meeting had to happen tonight. Allie sighed and eventually agreed. She arrived early, nervous, and trying to appear calmer than she felt. When Jay showed up, looking sharp and confident, she couldn't help but feel a little impressed. They began discussing the campaign, and Jay, trying to understand her creative perspective, softly asked if her ads appeared bitter because of a recent heartbreak. The comment hit a sensitive nerve. Allie snapped. Hurt and defensive, she told him to mind his own business. Her voice was sharp and the words came out colder than she intended. She even insulted him, asking why he was still single if he was such a romance expert. Jay's expression changed. The hurt was clear, disappointed. He ended the dinner abruptly and walked away. Realizing how unfair she had been, guilt rushed over Allie. She ran after him, breathless, and apologized. She explained that she'd had a terrible day and didn't mean what she said. Jay paused and accepted her apology. The tension softened, and in a sudden emotionally charged moment, they shared a kiss. Just then, Allie's ex-boyfriend appeared with his new girlfriend. The timing couldn't have been worse. Heart racing with panic and ego mixed, Allie quickly introduced Jay as her new boyfriend. Jay understood the situation and confidently played along. Her ex mentioned that they were supposed to go on a double date with another couple, but that couple had been murdered at the vineyard. Allie and Jay exchanged a stunned look, chills running through them. The two left together in the same taxi, unaware that the hard-eyed killer was silently watching them from a distance, observing, choosing his next targets. They soon arrived at Ali's building. She apologized once more before heading inside, exhausted but strangely comforted by Jay's presence. As she reached for her keys, her heart dropped. They were missing. Panic and embarrassment returned. Jay noticed, told the taxi driver to keep the meter running, and followed her to help. Trying to be useful, he attempted to break a window so she could get in, but instead injured himself. Ali immediately hurried inside, grabbed a first aid kit, and began gently treating his wounds. For the first time that day, she felt a moment of warmth, someone being there for her. While tending to him, she suddenly noticed something personal on her bed. Alarmed and flustered, she quickly tried to hide it in the wardrobe, but as she opened it, she froze. The heart-eyed killer was inside. He lunged forward and attacked her. Ali screamed. Jay rushed to help, and the killer turned his attention to him. The masked man pinned Jay against the wall, ready to end him, but Ali grabbed a lamp and struck the killer, forcing him to let go. Adrenaline kicked in. They ran outside and locked the door using a belt. Hands shaking, breaths heavy with fear, they sprinted back toward the taxi, their only hope of escape. But the killer was already one step ahead. A sudden shot echoed. The arrow pierced the taxi driver's head. Ali's heart dropped. Their escape gone. In desperation, Ali tried reasoning with the killer. She shouted that he was mistaken, insisting that she and Jay were not a couple. Jay desperately tried calling for help, but the killer fired another arrow, destroying Jay's phone in his hands. With no choice left, the two ran into an abandoned botanical garden. Their footsteps echoed through the silent space, fear gripping their lungs. But the killer was ruthless. He caught up and attacked Al. Throwing her into the grass, Jay tried to fight back, but the killer knocked him unconscious. Bruised and terrified, Ali forced herself to keep moving. She hid behind old amusement park equipment until she reached an abandoned carousel. With trembling hands, she climbed onto it, trying to blend into the still surroundings and control her breathing. Then, the carousel lights flickered on. The ride suddenly spun at full speed, violently throwing Ali off balance. She hit the ground hard, but pushed herself up despite the pain. The killer approached slowly, raising a machete for the final strike. Ali used the last of her strength and kicked him hard, sending him flying off the carousel. Dizzy, injured, and running purely on adrenaline, she scrambled down and tried to escape again. Just as the killer lunged to attack her, police cars swarmed the area with flashing lights and sirens blaring. The heart-eyed killer vanished into the darkness as mysteriously as he had appeared. Shaken and barely able to breathe, Ali ran to the nearest officer, trembling, begging for help, and worried sick about Jay.
Moments later, the police radio crackled with an update. The killer had been captured. Ali felt a wave of relief wash over her. her, but deep down, something still didn't feel right. Later at the station, Detectives Zach and Janine approached her for a full statement. Allie tried to explain everything, shaken but determined, until her world flipped upside down again. Jay was brought in, handcuffed, confused, and terrified. Allie stared in disbelief, insisting that Jay wasn't the killer, but the detectives treated him as a serious suspect. They had found a mask and a crossbow in his possession. Janine suggested he might not have acted alone, and just like that, suspicion turned toward Allie too. In the interrogation room, Zach slammed evidence onto the table. The wedding ring retrieved from the vineyard, engraved with the initials JS. It matched Jay Simon's. Jay's heart pounded as he tried to defend himself, begging them to believe he was innocent. But Zach's patience was gone. His frustration exploded, growing more aggressive with every second. Janine stepped in, calming the tension. She asked Zach to leave and continued the interrogation alone. Her approach shifted, softer, more personal, almost flirtatious. She questioned Jay about his relationship with Allie, planting seeds of doubt and emotional confusion. Meanwhile, in the waiting area, Allie pleaded with a police officer, adamant that the wrong man had been arrested, but the officer dismissed her, clearly annoyed. As she continued demanding updates, a technician named David entered to repair a computer. He looked at Allie curiously, saying she seemed familiar, and even joked about a dating app. Allie, exhausted and in no mood, denied it and rejected his attempt to ask her out. Janine returned with another officer and began interrogating Allie next. Instead of staying professional, she teased Allie about possibly being attracted to Jay because he was handsome and successful, almost mocking her, as if this were all just romantic drama. Suddenly, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the station. The air turned cold and tense. Janine stepped away to check the fuse or power source, while the other officer went to find a flashlight. In the silence, footsteps echoed. Then, in one brutal strike, Janine was impaled from behind with a flagpole. The hard-eyed killer had returned. Allie watched in horror as Janine collapsed, lifeless. Chaos erupted. Officers panicked. Allie ran through the corridor screaming warnings. The killer was inside the station ensign. She urged people to hide as she fled for her life once again. Outside, Zach heard the commotion and called out for Janine, but got no response. Before he could react, the killer appeared and slashed Zach with a machete, killing him instantly. Allie reached the interrogation room where Jay was still cuffed, terrified and helpless. She promised to get help to find the keys, begging him to stay alive. But while she was gone, the killer crashed into the room. Jay dodged strike after strike, barely staying alive. Allie returned with a gun and fired multiple shots, forcing the killer to retreat. Hands shaking, she unlocked Jay's cuffs and freed him. Together, they ran again. They escaped the station and fled toward a drive-in theater, where couples sat peacefully in parked cars, watching a movie under the night sky, clueless about the nightmare unfolding nearby. Some people noticed a man wearing a heart-eyed mask in the distance, but they assumed it was just a Valentine's Day costume. They had no idea death was walking among them. The killer moved silently between the rows of cars, and without warning, brutally slaughtered a random moviegoer for no reason. His screams pierced the night, and panic exploded across the drive-in. People ran in every direction, cars honked, and chaos took over. Allie and Jay dove into a nearby car, where a high couple sat in the back seat, completely lost in their own world. Allie and Jay tried desperately to warn them, voices shaking with fear, but the couple was too intoxicated to understand the danger closing in. Suddenly, the rear door swung open. The killer yanked the man out and impaled him with a giant cross. Blood splattered everywhere, as he then forced the woman's head onto it, killing her instantly in a horrifying and grotesque scene. Chaos spread through the drive-in as the killer tore through the crowd, slaughtering anyone who crossed his path. Allie and Jay ran for their lives once again, but the killer pursued relentlessly, cutting down anyone who tried to stop him. Jay urged Allie to keep running, but she was overwhelmed with guilt. She blamed herself for leading the killer to this place, for putting so many innocent lives at risk. Determined to end this nightmare, Allie and Jay circled back. They grabbed whatever weapons they could from the fallen victims. The killer lunged at them with his machete. Jay fought with everything he had, pure adrenaline, fear, and survival driving him, but he was overpowered and collapsed to the ground, bleeding. Allie's eyes burned with rage and terror. She seized a propane tank and smashed it hard into the killer. The hit wounded him, but he still wouldn't stay down, until Jay gathered his last bit of strength and drove the killer's own machete into him. The masked attacker collapsed, finally defeated. They tore off his mask, but neither of them recognized the face underneath. Police soon swarmed the scene and collected the body. An officer told Allie and Jay that they would become famous for stopping the hard-eyed killer. Their faces would be everywhere on the news. Jay, exhausted but hopeful, invited Ali back to his hotel room to finish the dinner they never got to enjoy before his flight. But Ali, still numb and overwhelmed by everything that happened, gently declined. Janine, shockingly alive, appeared out of nowhere. In pain but still functioning, she showed interest in Jay and offered him a ride. Jay hesitated, then accepted. Later, alone in her apartment, Ali sat in silence. The night replayed in her mind on a loop. The terror, the deaths, the fact that she might have lost someone she truly cared about. She called Monica, who urged her not to lose a good man because of fear. Monica's words lit a spark inside her. Ali rushed to the airport, heart racing with hope, searching everywhere for Jay, but he was nowhere to be found. Then her phone rang from an unknown number. A chilling voice spoke. He told her Jay was with him and gave the address of a remote chapel. His tone turned ice cold as he warned her. If she called the police, Jay would die. In the background, she heard Jay's muffled screams. Terrified, Ali raced to the chapel. Inside, she found Jay tied up and gagged. Standing over him was the hard-eyed killer, alive. The mask came off, and Ali's heart sank. It was David, the IT technician from the station. Ali demanded to know who they had killed at the drive-in. David smirked and calmly answered. The man's name was Eli. Ali asked if Eli and his companion had been a couple. David corrected her. They were a throuple. Before Ali could even absorb that, Janine stepped out of the shadows, very much alive and no longer pretending to be a victim. She revealed the truth. She was also one of the hard-eyed killers. And David wasn't just her partner in crime, he was her husband. The two of them loved hunting couples. It wasn't just murder, it was a twisted obsession, a sick fantasy, a deadly fetish they shared. They confessed that they were the real hard-eyed killers. Eli, the man who died earlier, was only an obsessed copycat. Janine revealed chilling details. The break-in at Ali's apartment was her doing. David killed the taxi driver, and the wedding ring found earlier belonged to her, engraved with JS for Janine Shaw. Ali was shaken to the core. She asked why they targeted her and Jay. They weren't even a real couple. Janine smirked and said their original plan was to kill someone else, but everything changed when they saw Ali and Jay share that passionate kiss. That kiss sealed their fate. Janine placed a gun on the table. There was only one bullet. She demanded Ali prove she didn't love Jay. Ali had only two choices: shoot herself or shoot him. With tears streaming down her face, hands shaking uncontrollably, Ali picked up the gun. She turned to Jay, voice breaking, as she confessed that somewhere through the chaos, she had truly fallen for him. Jay begged her not to do it. At the last second, Ali pulled the trigger. The bullet grazed Jay's shoulder and struck Janine in the abdomen. Ali rushed to Jay, struggling to support him, trying to escape, but David opened fire. He dragged Jay away while Janine, wounded but furious, caught up to Ali and began torturing her. David mocked Jay, saying he would force him to watch Ali die. But Jay, almost fading, quietly grabbed one of David's arrows and stabbed it straight into his eye. David screamed, stumbled back onto a table full of candles, and burned alive, flames consuming him. Janine, enraged and barely able to stand, punched Ali to the floor and raised a weapon to finish her. Ali grabbed a metal straw and jammed it into Janine's throat. As Janine staggered back, Ali shoved her into a statue. The blade it held pierced clean through her neck. Janine hung there, choking, until her head finally separated and fell. Ali crawled to Jay, but unbelievably, David, still alive, attempted to lift a crossbow for one final shot. Jay ended it once and for all, striking him down and closing the chapter of the hard-eyed killers forever. 1 year later, Ali and Jay were still together. They returned to the same drive-in, the place that once nearly killed them, this time to celebrate their anniversary. Jay thought it was just a date night, but Ali smiled, pulled out a ring, and asked him to marry her. Jay, remembering everything they had survived, said yes. And that's the end of this movie and our recap. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel to enjoy more videos, and I'll see you in the next video.